Well, hello everybody, and welcome in. Bill, Vic, and I were to host this together, and as it works out, the gremlins hopped into his computer just at the inappropriate time, so we can't hear him. Hopefully, we can work that out and try to get that fixed as we go. But we're grateful that everybody is here to talk about a really important initiative, the $1 million IPF Catalyst Challenge, that we are very excited from Three Lakes Partners to be a part of. And we have a couple of guests today who are going to talk with us, and maybe that we can hear, hopefully, Kathy Lindell. Are you there, Kathy?
Yes, but I'm in the.
There we are, and Kim Fredrickson. Kathy and Kim.
Hello. Hello, everybody.
Hi. Hello, everybody. We're hoping that people can hear us. So we had a little issue with Bill's computer, but hopefully you can hear us now. Let me first introduce Three Lakes Partners and who we are. We're a venture philanthropy fund that was started by a family who was very much negatively affected by IPF. They lost their matriarch, their mother, their wife in July of 2015. And at that time, they were frustrated by the lack of education and the lack of awareness and the lack of what really was out there for them to understand this disease, idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis. The $1 million IPF Catalyst Challenge was actually created to find engineering-based solutions to problems that IPF patients are facing. So that could be oxygen issues, which we're going to talk a lot about today. Hopefully Kim and Kathy are going to be back as our producer Bill is getting it all put together. Perfect, they're saying. And it could be education-based solutions for education pieces for IPF as well. So we are excited about it. You can check out the website at challenge.ipfcatalyst.com. So please, if you get a chance to check that out, please check that out. So if we could bring Kim and Kathy back, Bill, he's producing this for us behind the scenes. Awesome. So we're going to start with Dr. Kathy Lindell. Kathy, can you do us a favor and give us your experience and how you got involved with IPF and what you're doing now? That would be great.
So thank you for the opportunity. I, by background, am a pulmonary clinical nurse specialist. So what that means is I have a master's degree in pulmonary nursing. And I came to the University of Pittsburgh in 2000 when our ILD center was open, and our focus was on patients with idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis.
Can you hear me, Elizabeth?
So what I noticed was that patients would get the information and the diagnosis, but they would be at a loss for what the disease truly was. And so I went back to school and I got my PhD in nursing, and my study was the disease impact of IPF on patients and caregivers. And what I found is that if you provide patients and their caregivers with information about the disease and what to expect, that they actually were able to have decreased stress and also be able to better prepare for the disease course. So what we find is that it's really important to provide patients with understanding about the disease as well as their caregivers. Because as we tell patients, we know the disease will progress. We can't always predict how it will progress, but we want them to be best prepared for the days ahead and what options are available.
Clearly, your work at the University of Pittsburgh with these IPF patients, you've heard from them directly. We know that. As Three Lakes Partners, we hired IDEO, the design firm from around the world, to go and meet with patients. And we know they came to Pittsburgh and met with some patients there to find out what their biggest frustrations were as it relates to quality of life issues. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So what we find, there's several problems. One, so delay in referral to a specialty center. So that results in delay in diagnosis. Once they do get diagnosed, just information about the disease. So can, the type of oxygen, because most patients will require oxygen, and the oxygen requirements as the disease advances. And that probably is our biggest challenge today, is that patients don't always get the type of equipment that delivers what their body needs or, what the requirements are. So that is a very big challenge. Another opportunity or an option for patients can be participation in research studies. That's how, our center, along with several others, were part of the drug trials for both the medications that are now available. But what has to happen is patients have to be able to get to a center where these trials happen. So to be able to participate in research to help find the potential cures. Another challenge is today, lung transplant is the only known medical therapy that cures IPF. So you need to get patients early for referral so that they can be evaluated to see what needs to happen. And then understanding of the magnitude of the disease, like exactly what's happening with the disease and how it affects their body. And we don't, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, we don't know how the disease will advance. We know that it will advance, but we want our patients to have knowledge about this so that they can be best prepared to deal with the symptoms and the symptom burden that results as a result of this, or as a result of the disease. So, for example, we know that patients have shortness of breath. We know that some patients have cough. We know some patients have fatigue. And there are ways to be able to manage these symptoms so it can affect and improve the quality of life. We want to make sure that our patients have the best options available.
So, Kathy, can I ask a little bit about the oxygen issue for these patients? Because one of the issues that we think is an engineering-based solution that could be solved is the heaviness of the tanks. Another one is the fact that, which shocks me, and I've said this a million times, what shocks me is the fact that I can start my car from my cell phone no matter where I am, or we can DVR a show from thousands of miles away. But these patients, when they want to turn up and down their oxygen, they have to get up out of their chair, normally walk to another room, and I think Kim's going to probably shake her head yes, walk to another room to have to turn up her oxygen up and down. There's no, in this day of Bluetooth and smart devices, the fact that there's not a smarter oxygen system out there is shocking to me. And I think that's one thing that we heard with our research from IDEO and all the people, that there's a frustration. They don't even know that the oxygen is flowing sometimes. There's no warning system to let them know that they're going to run out. I know these are things that your patients have talked to you about and that you have talked to us about as we've put together this challenge. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So we do know that the important thing is that we do know that oxygen is a really important medicine for patients with IPF. So that is like just the groundwork. And what we know is that a lot of the research that has been done on oxygen has been done in patients with another lung disease called emphysema. There's been very limited research done on patients with idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis. And so what happens is a lot of times patients get the oxygen that their providers use information based upon emphysema. One of the most important things is that patients be tested frequently to see what their oxygen requirements are, and then provided with the equipment that is able to provide whatever their liter flow is. And there is no set prediction of how patients will, what they will require. So I'll give you an example. I just came from clinic. We have a woman who requires 2 liters with rest, but when she moves, she requires 15 liters.
Whoa.
So as you mentioned, how do we change that device? And what the patient has to do now is, if they have a caregiver that's nearby, they can ask them to go, increase the oxygen to provide that dose. Or they have to get up, walk across the room or wherever their stationary source is and turn it up. So what happens is the patient's saturation can fluctuate throughout. So there's no ideal way today to provide consistent oxygen that meets each patient's requirement. So it is definitely an area very ripe for research.
Yeah, Kim, I want to bring you into this conversation because this $1 million challenge, for those entrepreneurs and innovators looking at this webinar, it's at catalyst.ipfchallenge.com. I'm sorry, challenge.ipfcatalyst.com. For those who are watching this and want to get involved in this $1 million prize competition to solve these engineering-based problems that patients with IPF face, and we talked about oxygen, and you're one that lives it every day. If you could wave a magic wand and tell them what to create to fix it, what would it be?
Well, honestly, I think some of those solutions that you've said would be perfect. Being able to control it from where you're sitting, because it's the same with me. I have one level when I'm sitting. I have one level when I'm just walking around. And then if I'm doing something more strenuous, I have another level. And right now I'm on 8 liters sitting. So mine is pretty high. So being able to be able to control that from where you are is huge. I think also just being able to monitor it and possibly send those results to my doctor, because they do the best they can, but they are in the dark a lot of the time. And you come in and you report to them what you think you need, but that's coming from you. And it's not necessarily from a lot of data. I mean, I test myself throughout the day and I check, but I mean, if I had a way to get continuous data, or at least data a couple of times a day, then I think my doctor could then respond well, and he could, see if I need more. Like I had an instance where I go to a rehab gym and they noticed that, oh my gosh, you're needing more oxygen now when you're exercising. And so I, went into my doctor and I explained what had happened, and we changed it and upped it. But there's so much that's on the patient, which, we are completely responsible for our care. But the problem is, at the same time, you're dealing with the devastation of being diagnosed with a terminal illness. And right. You're going through all the feelings, trying to figure out what to do, how to get information, what oxygen uses are even available. I mean, I have fought like a dog for everything that I've gotten oxygen-wise. I write a column for Pulmonary Fibrosis News, and I write about it, and I make videos because I had to learn everything from the School of Hard Knocks. It's just been horrible. So I try to share that information.
It's interesting because we have so many brilliant entrepreneurs and innovators in this country. And, that was part of the impetus for creating this $1 million challenge, to help us find these solutions for you. And a lot of it was born out of a family who had the same problems, who didn't understand why you can't, like right now, do you know your oxygen's flowing through that tube?
If I pull it, I can feel it.
That's it though.
But there'll be times where I'll go, man, I'm feeling kind of funny. And I pull it out and there's none. Right. Like maybe a kink or something else has happened. Yeah. So I don't know until I feel bad.
And what about going out? So we've heard from many people that the fear of running out of oxygen is a huge driver, that you're not going to be able to go out to dinner. You're not going to, because you may run out and the tanks are too heavy and bulky.
Right.
Can you talk about that really quickly?
Yeah, absolutely. So I had a portable oxygen concentrator for a while that went up to 6 pulse, and that was okay for a while. I had tons of extra batteries. I mean, I was always worried. I had chargers in the car. I had everything. But then I got to the level where I couldn't use one anymore. So then I fought like a dog for liquid oxygen. And when I go out, I have double the amount with me, because I am afraid that I'm going to run out. And my husband fills them. He puts them in the car, because I can only push one on a cart. And so that's very difficult. The other thing that's really hard is, a big thing was, our son got married in May, 2,000 miles away. Well, I couldn't fly on a plane anymore because I didn't have a portable concentrator that could go. And I couldn't drive even sit as a passenger for 2,000 miles to attend his wedding. And so what I actually did was I did a fundraiser, and I raised $39,000, and I chartered an air ambulance to take me there and back, because it was like the one thing I needed to do,
Oh, absolutely. So you couldn't go because airlines won't allow certain types of oxygen on there, and the portable concentrators aren't enough for you to be able to go. That's
exactly.
And that's an engineering-based problem. That's what we're trying to solve with this challenge. We've got $1 million purse, and our main goal is to give 3 prizes away that for the person that comes up with the idea or the solution or the app or whatever it is to better improve lives of patients with IPF. And honestly, you said it earlier and Kathy said it earlier, it'll improve lives of anybody who uses oxygen if oxygen is one of the solutions. One of the other questions, though, is what about from an education and a care management perspective? You see lots of apps in the App Store for all sorts of different diseases. Mm-hmm. And there's not one for this. Kathy and Kim, either one of you or both of you, if you could, one of the two of you could comment about this. Is there something that you could use as a patient that hasn't been created yet that would help you manage your disease better? And Kim, I'll start with you. And then Kathy, I'd like you to jump in.
Yeah, I would love to have an app that either I enter in, kind of like a Fitbit, that charts all of your steps and your heart rate and things like that. But there's not a really great one that's also does oxygen, but something where you could wear something that would just automatically enter it into the app, and it could track, all of those things. But it could also, there'd be a place for you to track how tired you were, what the humidity was. For me, I get really affected by heat and humidity. Like my days are different depending on those two items. And so if you could track all of those things, plus, exercise that you did, or maybe how you ate, or all the factors that prolong our lives, all the factors that make our quality of life better. I would die for an app like that. That would help, because what I do now is I have notes and I have papers and I have charts and and I try to bring all this into my doctor, and I try to go over, and they don't have a lot of time. And if I had something I could just send them before I got there or when I got there, it would be incredibly helpful.
Kathy, can you address that?
Yes, I hear the same request from our patients, and I am not familiar with such an app. Now, somebody just sent a message while we're talking from Ireland that they have such an app. So that is wonderful. It's not something that I'm familiar with, but I know that there is definitely a need, and it would really help our patients. So I have this message. I don't know if you see it. In Ireland, we have an app that records oxygen, heart rate, weight. It's called Patient Power. I think it would help patients keep records. So I have heard of this company and their work, and we don't do anything currently in our space, but I think it is definitely very important for us to consider for our patients. This other, I don't know if you see this other, Nancy Lee sends a note. Another challenge with the current system is for low vision senior patients who cannot see the dial on the regulator very well in order to know how much oxygen remains in the tank.
Yes.
I've searched for a solution, and the only thing I've found is an alarm which costs $200. So that's another problem that patients face. Another huge problem is the weight of the systems.
Oh, yeah.
So as patients require higher flow oxygen, if you see the green tanks, which are called e-tanks, a green tank in a hospital weighs 17 pounds. And they have tried to reduce the weight of them by making them aluminum based. So you'll see them that they're silver. That takes it down to 11 pounds, 10 or 11 pounds. But when you have a patient who already has a lung disease, has an increased work of breathing, and maybe in their past were on steroids because their doctor thought they had something else and they might have osteoporosis, you just really increase the challenge for the patient to be able to navigate that carrying that oxygen. Kim, I'm sure you have faced this and you have the firsthand knowledge. I see it from what patients come back and tell me, but you could report it firsthand.
Yes, I'd be happy to. Absolutely. Everything is so heavy, and I have liquid oxygen now, which is a little bit better. But the thing that people never tell you about, I just want to say with those e-tanks, is that they are so flammable to carry in your car. My son is a physicist, and he got in our car and saw one. It was not tied down or anything. He was like, I will not get in the car until that is tied down. And so people have not been told of these heavy, heavy tanks, and they're rolling around in their trunks. And if there is an accident, the end of it can fly off and like a bomb. And so, you have these heavy tanks. They're hard to manage. Most people can do one at a time on a cart, But like right now, an e-tank for me would go 45, 50 minutes. So then you have to carry all these things to go to the doctor, go to the gym, to go to anywhere. So yeah, it's really heavy. And they even have I tried another portable oxygen concentrator that supposedly goes up to a 9 pulse. And when I was still working and I was trying to stay working. The thing was so heavy. I took it to work one day and I came back and I told my husband, if I have to take that to work, I'm quitting. I mean, I can't. I was so exhausted from taking this concentrator that supposedly would help me have a higher flow. It was horrible.
Yeah, and people are commenting, they're coming into this webinar and commenting, how about a Fitbit device that controls the oxygen? That's the kind of solution.
Yes.
It shouldn't be wonderful. It shouldn't be that difficult to create a closed loop system with oxygen where they can then it controls itself based on your flow. It's reading your as you're breathing, and it's testing your pulse ox. And those are the kind of engineering, innovative solutions we're looking for with something like this. Someone else commented about the concentrators not being able to see the dial and how small the dials are.
They're terrible.
Yeah, and it feels like oxygen itself is an industry that's a bit archaic. Yes. And I think part of it is the ecosystem in which it's reimbursed. So I think there's a reimbursement issue. But from an engineering solution, there are tons of ways to improve this entire ecosystem. And we just, the $1 million challenge really is about bringing those people to the surface and saying, help us make this better so that your life, Kim, and other patients like you, your lives can be better.
I agree. I just would like to say, I just want to say thank you to both of you and to Bill and to everyone involved and to those of you that are going to invent something, because what it is it's really hard having this disease. But if you can increase the quality of your life in any way, it is huge. I mean, I just can't even tell you what a difference it would make to us.
The travel thing that you talked about is, and I know Kathy and I have talked about this. Kathy Lindell is one of the most passionate people I've ever met about this disease, and she's done a lot for her patients at the University of Pittsburgh at the Simmons Center. And Bill Vick, for those of you looking for Bill Vick, he's having technical issues. The gremlins hopped in his computer, and he's one of the most technical guys I know, so that's bad when it happens to him. So I'm hosting it. I'm Elizabeth Estes from Three Lakes right now, along with Kim Fredrickson and Kathy Lindell. But the travel thing, again, it's one of those things where that's just quality of life. And the fact that the tanks are so heavy and so bulky, and the fact that you're made to stay home and you can't get on an airplane and you can't go to your son's wedding without raising money to charter a flight, that's mind-boggling to me. Yeah. And there needs to be some solutions, whether it's solutions where airlines, maybe you work with airlines, I don't know what it is, but for innovators and entrepreneurs out there, there's a market. There's a market to be had.
A huge market.
Yeah. You mentioned the tanks. One of the things when we hired IDEO, glow in the dark dials. Somebody just suggested
great
glow in
idea.
the dark dials. That'd be a great idea. When we hired IDEO to go around the country and talk with patients, they found a lot of people are doing life hacks. And so one man took the back seat out of his car and created a place to hold the tank that you're talking about that becomes just a missile on the road. That's what's happening. And that's what people are doing because these solutions don't exist.
Yes.
I also want to address the education piece. So in our challenge, if you go to the website at challenge.ipfcatalyst.com, you can see kind of the rules and the parameters and what we're looking for. We've got some categories. So is it oxygen? Is it education? And here's another one. What are some issues of getting to the IPF diagnosis? And that's a great question. The issues with getting to that is that it takes about 26 months. Kathy, can you address that quickly about the length of time that it takes to get to a diagnosis and maybe what we could create that would help speed that up?
We have to increase awareness of the disease and getting patients to centers of excellence where they are, there's experts that know how to take care of these diseases. So it's really, in addition, an awareness campaign of what pulmonary fibrosis is. And we need to get patients to centers where providers and teams are there and that can help patients confirm the diagnosis, get an early diagnosis, get them involved in research studies, get their oxygen when they require it optimized, get them for transplant referral, and along the way, educate them about what the disease is, what it involves, and provide information to help prepare for the disease course. Those are the important things, because our goal for every patient who has any type of disease is always to improve their quality of life so that they can live their life. I mean, to hear her say that the challenge to get to her son's wedding 2,000 miles away, that's heartbreaking. That shouldn't have to happen. There should be ways that we can help patients do this and get them to do what they think is important in their lives.
Yeah, one of the other things on the early diagnosis, and we've heard this before, is digital stethoscopes. Could there be something that have algorithms created? Could we create a stethoscope that once it hears the sound in the lungs, it knows it's IPF versus something else? What happens is primarily is people are diagnosed with pneumonia. Kim, and you can talk to this. Talk about your example. You were probably diagnosed with multiple things before you finally got IPF. What if we could create a digital tool or a stethoscope that says, hey, if it's this sound, then it's IPF. Mm-hmm. There are people out there that know how to do this. People smarter than me that know how to create this. And that's what the challenge is about.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Now I have to say, my example is not that one, because I had breast cancer, and the chemo and the radiation gave me pulmonary fibrosis. Wow. So 4 days after I was done with treatment, I started having trouble breathing. And so they figured it out within 2 months, because they knew the source of mine. But I've talked to so many patients who, they were diagnosed with emphysema and asthma and pneumonia, and they couldn't figure out why they had so many courses of pneumonia, and like years of mistreatment that had they been diagnosed early, they could have gotten on the drugs that reduce the scarring or at least keep it at bay for a while. So just, years of missing life, really tragic for most people, actually.
Yeah. Well, Kathy and Kim, I appreciate you both being here. And again, I'm speaking for Bill Vick. I'm the much less better looking guy than Bill Vick, who's unfortunately struggling with some technical difficulties today. But we appreciate both of you and the input that you're both giving on this challenge. And to remind everybody what this is about, Three Lakes Partners was created by a family who lost their matriarch to this disease and went through a lot of the same things that you went through, Kim, as it relates to the disease and struggling with oxygen, struggling with education, struggling with information. And so we put the $1 million challenge out there to try to incent entrepreneurs and innovators who might not have ever paid attention to this space to try to pay attention to this space, because we're desperate to improve the quality of life of these patients who battle this disease. At the same time, we're working on the science side of this, and Kathy knows that as well, and trying to help find cures and do what we need to do to move the science forward. So this isn't a one-prong approach, but this webinar particularly was about our Catalyst Challenge. And so if anybody's out there that's seeing this, it's the website is challenge.ipfcatalyst.com. You can check it out. All the parameters are there. We're taking applications up until the first week in November. We're very excited about that, and we'll award this prize after the 1st of January. We have an esteemed panel of judges of all different walks of life, and we're really excited about the fact that some attention is being paid to this disease. Kathy, you've worked your whole life on this disease with not a lot of attention paid to it, and so we appreciate what you've done for your patients at the Simmons Center at the University of Pittsburgh. And Kim, we're fighting hard, everybody is, for you and for people like you. So thanks for what you do on an advocacy level as well.
And thank you to both of you so much. I can't even tell you how touched I am that you would all be fighting for us. And it does my heart good. So thank you so much. And thank you to Bill, too, because he's the one that is like the powerhouse. And, I just feel so bad he wasn't here. But he's the one that, made this happen and is here with us.
There is no doubt about it. Bill Vick is part of the reason that we're doing what we're doing, and we're proud to be doing what we're doing. And with his help, hopefully, and with Kathy, with your help, and Kim, with you, we're going to keep pushing this forward. If you know of anybody, who's watching this, who's an entrepreneur, who's an engineer brain, who can help try to create some solutions to some of these problems, please pass it on and pass it on to everybody you know. We want to give that $1 million away, and we will. So
absolutely.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you
guys. And thank
Kathy,
you, Kim.
thank you.
Good luck with everything that goes on.
Thank you. I'm hanging in there and doing